Hey, what's going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a good day. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World in the Black Business School, and I'm going to let you guys come into the chat real quick as I get ready to drop this really great conversation on you guys. Today, I'm speaking with a respected colleague of mine, somebody I work with, and just have a lot of respect for. Hold on, give me a second. Let me kill my echo. Her name is Danielle Pierce. Danielle is the co-founder of economicelevation.com. Economic Elevation helps people to make better financial decisions and create a better life for themselves. And so I'd like to say to my friend Danielle, how you doing today?
Hey, Dr. Boyce, what's going on? I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Oh, good, good, good. Yeah, well, Danielle, so you and I were talking about things like proms and weddings and just, these other events that, that we all have participated in at some point, most of us, either as a guest or as an attendee. And you did a video yesterday and you were on Your Black World and you were talking about prom spending, and why you might have somebody that say makes, I think you said what, makes 20,000 a year and then turns around and spends $2,000 on a prom dress. Let's get to that. What was the take on your video yesterday? What was the sort of?
I was basically saying that, this is not a new phenomenon. We see this every year, especially in our community where we do the absolute most at graduations and proms. And I said that, we see it every year. We talk about it. Everybody has something to say. They point the finger. They say, oh, look at those, stupid Black folks. Look at these people. And then people talk about the backgrounds, because a lot of the videos you see, if you pay attention, though, they are in the hood. Like, you can definitely tell that these houses are not, that well maintained. They ain't that great. So people look at that and they point, they laugh, they comment, and then we kind of move on from there. But my point the other day was basically that, we got to stop doing that, because that's not serving any purpose. And shaming people has never worked as far as changing behavior long term. You might get a change, for about a week or so, a couple of weeks, just like a relationship. You talk shit to your partner, they might do what you want them to do for a week, but then they back to doing what they want to do, because that's how people are. So I was just basically saying that, we have to do better throughout the year to kind of help out, mentor, volunteer, help the community. And then, of course, as far as the actual prom spending, I don't condone it. I don't think it makes sense to spend 10% of your income on a day. But I said the logic behind that, for me, at least just given how I grew up and what I saw, is that, parents who are not able to provide on a day-to-day basis, week after week, year after year, decade after decade, they just want to have a day or two throughout the year where they just kind of ball out, spend all their money, don't worry about the bills, and just kind of, give that child everything they want just for one day, because they're deprived so often throughout the year. That's my take on it. So what you think?
Well, I think you make a good point. And everybody who just came in, I'm talking to Danielle Pierce from Economic Elevation, and we're talking about, sort of the need to ball out, and what happens, when prom comes, or when you're talking about a wedding or whatever. Tell me yes or no, yes or no. Tell me yes or no. Have you ever gone to a wedding or gone to a prom and just kind of wondered, like, where did these people get all this money? Like, how did they suddenly find all the money for this? When a lot of us, are in the struggle, started in the struggle, trying to get out of the struggle, but yet, it's sort of this complete reversal when it comes to being fly. Like I'm not a poor man, and I know you're not a poor woman. I know you're very successful, and I know you've had you know what it's like to rub nickels together and have some money. You've seen both sides, I imagine. Like, I know I have. I've seen poverty and I've seen a little bit of prosperity. But even when I was doing it at my best financially, there would be times where I would see people buying things and I would say, I can't afford that. And I know that I make a lot more. I can afford that. I would be afraid to buy that. Do you ever feel that way?
I do. And I had somebody comment on a video the other day that was like, well, it's not your money, not your problem. I mean, duh, we already know people can spend money however they want to. But yes, I do wonder. What I wondered about specifically is weave, like the bundles that I'm wearing this particular week for the next couple of weeks or so. So weave is expensive. And if you want good hair, like I do, that costs money. So when I see girls working at Target with the flyest weave or the flyest hair, I'm like, sis, how are you pulling this off? Like, I can't even do it. And, I know I make more money than you working at Target, unless you got a trust fund that I don't know about. So yes, I have wondered that. I mean, I got to be honest. Everybody says don't judge. Judgment is a part of human existence. We all judge all day, every day. Just a matter of checking your innate prejudices, I think, and not, letting that skew your perspective too much.
Well, I think that when it comes to judging, I think that judging, put it this way, if I know you personally, I'm not really going to judge what you do with your money until you start coming to me with your money problems. When you come to me with your money problems and you expect me to take some responsibility for the financial train wreck you created in your life, well, then to me, it's like, okay, so you're transferring, since you're transferring responsibility to me, you're also going to transfer some of your power over to me to really look at these decisions you're making and to give my 2 cents. If you're living your life and you're happy where you are, like if you're broke and you good with that, then I'm gonna be happy for you. I'm completely happy for you. I think that the big challenge comes in when you'll see some of us that will be really extravagant when it comes to money, but then when things get tough, it's like I'm gonna guilt trip my financially responsible relative. Anybody gone through that? Tell me yes or no if you've gone through that, where you got maybe a relative, a cousin, or whoever who doesn't make good decisions when it comes to money, and when you try to say something, they're like, "Oh, don't tell me what to do. It's my money, my prerogative." Blah blah blah. They do a Bobby Brown on you. It's my prerogative, right? And then, but then, when the consequences come calling, they come calling you, and then you're left sort of in this awkward situation where either A, you have to be mean to somebody that you love and have them act like, yo, you think you all that, you think you bougie now, you think you better than us, you don't want to help, right? Or you step in and you loan them money that you really don't want to loan, right. And then you have to go through the hell that usually comes when they don't pay you back. And then now you got this bad blood with a relative because they were it was trifling behavior that got them in that situation, and then a continuation of that trifling behavior that led them to not pay you back. Am I the only one who's gone through that? Like, like where I got like a long list of relatives I've loaned a lot of money to who never pay me back, to the point where I get angry. I get angry when you call. I ain't gonna lie. Everybody has a relationship with money, Danielle. I kid you not. I get pissed when you call me and ask me for money and you're dumping your problems on me. Yeah. Especially if I don't think that you're gonna be able to really follow through on any commitments that you make. What do you think?
I think it is very disrespectful when people do that. And it's so funny you start talking about relatives, because I do have one of my nephews, and I have 23 nieces and nephews, right? And he sent me a text the night before. It says, "Love you, auntie." I'm like, "All right, cool. Love you too." Next text, of course, is always a request for money. It is like clockwork. If I talk to him on the phone for, we talk for a couple times, that third time he gonna need 50, 100, a couple $100, a plane ticket to go across the country, because this location where he's at now is not working out. But he sent me a text the other day after, this time he didn't ask for money just yet, but he said, I messed up and I made all these bad decisions, and, I'm really sorry, and I take responsibility. But mind you, just a couple months ago, he basically was like, "Fuck you, fuck your mama. This was all y'all fault. The reason why I'm the way that I am. Y'all never did anything for me." I'm just like, well, damn. And it was literally out of the blue. Like, this text came at 2 a.m. So it's like you walking down the street, somebody's still on you. That's kind of how it felt. And then he turns around and he reverses it a couple weeks later. So yeah, I get that. I get that pretty frequently.
Yeah, and I think to circle back in terms of the conversation about prom spending and wedding spending and all that, is that I think the curse of having financial literacy in a community where financial literacy just really isn't talked about. It's not valued. Money's valued, but keeping your money, protecting your money, growing your money, making your money, that's not valued. Like the information surrounding the management of money, the acquisition of money, that's not valued at all. But money's valued. That's the weirdest thing. It's almost like I don't want to learn how to grow food. I don't want to learn how to shop for food or cook food, but I love to eat. I got to eat all the time. I'm always eating, right? I stay eating, but when you say, "Hey, would you like to learn how to cook?" Man, I ain't got time for that. You want to learn how to shop? Go to the grocery store? Nah, I ain't got time for that. We got a farm. We can show you how to farm. Nah, I ain't got. That's whack. That's whack. But where the food at? Well, motherfuckers. Stop. I apologize. I cussed. You did it. You cussed first. And my thought is, then there's something missing, in your ability to connect the dots. The person who wants to eat the most should spend all their time learning how to grow food. I tell the kids in the house, I say, look, one of them she's 12. She'll circle like some Gucci bag or some pair of expensive shoes, and will circle it on her phone and send us a screenshot and be like, what are we supposed to do with this? What is this for? Oh, well, I want that for my birthday. Or can you get me that? No. And I tell her, I'm like, if you want all this expensive stuff, I'm not going to judge you for none of that. But you best spend all your time learning how to make money, because
Right.
you need to be able to maintain the lifestyle to which you're trying to become accustomed. Because I'm not financing that. Right. So I think that's the funny part. It's like there's nothing wrong with wanting the nicest stuff. It's when you want other people to kind of cover you on that becomes kind of an issue.
Yeah, and then also we don't really just collectively as a community, we don't see the value in things unless we can see it, touch it, smell it, taste it immediately. So the best example that comes to mind is life insurance. Life insurance is one of the biggest boost to wealth that you can get pretty much for the people who have money. A lot of it started with life insurance, and it's cheap. It's affordable. You can go out and get it at any time. You can get a policy online. It is so like, to me, it's inexcusable to have children or anybody that you care about and not have a life insurance policy. But because there is no immediate value to it, we don't value. We don't see the importance of it. We say things like, "Oh man, what, you want me to die? you wait for me to die soon." That's the one thing that people say a lot. Or they say that they can't afford it. But again, life insurance is super cheap now, especially if you get it when you're younger. And if you don't smoke, like there's life insurance policies where you can just pay one payment and be done for the remainder of the policy. But we do not see the value in that collectively at all, because it don't make us feel good today. So we like, well, why do I need life insurance? I didn't hear enough and I turned out okay. So everybody else will be all right too.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I think that just sort of processing these things a little bit differently could help everybody. And by the way, I'm talking to Danielle Pierce from economicelevation.com. That's her website, economicelevation.com. She also does stuff on FlyNewBeingQueenTV.com, and she's a really smart lady that knows all about money. And we're talking about the high costs of proms and weddings and just times where we ball out even when we can't afford it. And hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please do that. One thing, Danielle, that I did look up, switching or going a slightly different direction here, is speaking of balling out and spending big money on something, I noticed that the average cost of a wedding in the U.S. is about $33,000, right? And I find that really fascinating. Now, proms can get bad, right? We saw the lady with the camel, that bought her son the camel, and he had the camel and 2 prom dates. I mean, I'm like, what, are you what are you raising him to be? Like, what is this, right? And you think he's one of R. Kelly's kids or something, right? But either way, it is what it is, and people had a lot to say about that. But the average prom, I think, costs a little bit less than $1,000. I don't consider that to be totally unreasonable. I remember when I went to my prom, I didn't get any help. My parents didn't chip in any money. I bought my girlfriend's dress, and I bought my own white suit with the red cummerbund and the red tie. I remember that.
Oh, snap.
Oh yeah, I was sharp. that day, and I even had the little flip up sunglasses like Dwayne Wayne had.
Oh my God.
Yeah, right. I know, right? Just don't laugh at me too much. And but weddings, $33,000, for the average wedding. And most people, I'm sure you've seen these studies that say that the average American can't come up with $1,000, $500 for an emergency. What do you think about that? $33,000 for the average wedding?
Man, I think that I was talking about this the other day with relation to bullying, and I think it applies to our spending habits too. The difference between the society today and the way it was even just, let's say, 10 years ago, is that now everybody wants to go viral, everybody wants to trend, and everybody wants to, to be popular online, so to speak, and they want to present themselves and look a certain way. Because if you scroll Instagram, and you see like all these girls with perfect bodies and all these guys with all this money and people, driving Bentleys, they go on a vacation, they're in Puerto Rico. There's this group, Black Travel Movement, and everybody, they go to Fiji and Bali and all over the world. And you just like, well, I want to do that too. I want to do that too. I want to go get married in Bali too. And so it becomes a matter of, to me, and I could be wrong about this, it becomes a matter of I want to do that too because everybody else is doing it. It looks so cool, it looks so fascinating, and that's the lifestyle that I want. And you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You just, of course, see the highlight reel on social media, but I think that has a lot to do with it. The cost of wedding, and then of course, people out here I know, for example, when I got married, I didn't know anything about marriage. I didn't know what I was going to get to. So not only are people getting married and spending too much money, they don't even know what they're signing up for. Like the point of a marriage, what the focus should be on the wedding day, it should be on the actual marriage. But we put all our focus on how can we master the latest dance craze, so we could do the bridal shout, the bridesmaids could do these dance, and we can go viral and get 5 million views. We spend all our time on doing that, and then the focus on the actual marriage is lost. So 33,000, I think that's way too much money. I don't know. I think I spent 6,000. I was tripping about that. Yeah.
Well, I think it's when you talk about big spending on proms and weddings and all that, I would almost look at it as, people obviously have the right to do what they want.
Yeah.
But are you handling, the necessities before you go take on these extra financial burdens? Meaning, if you spend 33,000 on your wedding, then I hope you have at least 33,000 in your portfolio. Have you put together 33,000 for your down payment on your house? In fact, I almost give people advice, those who are learning from me, my students and stuff. I say, well, if you choose to get married, it might help you if you had a partner who just said, yeah, we could go spend 30,000, 40,000 on the wedding, but I'd rather actually have a house instead. So why don't we put that as a down payment on the house and try to find a way to get married at a much lower cost, or at least get married without taking on debt? That's the big problem with that 33,000 is that most people can't afford that with cash. They max out those credit cards. So you're kind of starting, marriage becomes almost like the second student loan in a way for a lot of people. So you both get married, because you both met each other, at whatever college you went to. So both of you are coming in with 60,000 in student loan debt or whatever. And then you say, oh, we want to get married, we want to ball out, we want to go viral. So we don't want our friends to think that we're cheap. So we're going to go ahead and spend another 30,000, 40,000 on the wedding. So now we're deep in the financial hole and we don't even have a house yet, right? So when you think of it that way, I think it's more so a matter of not really me saying to people, oh my gosh, you're an idiot if you spend that much on your wedding. It's to say, eat your vegetables before you eat dessert. Do the important stuff before you do the extra stuff, because what's happening is that we're putting the cart in front of the horse, and then we're wondering why the cart isn't getting far down the road. You can't live like that and make decisions like that and expect that you're going to be in a financially secure situation. And then when you add that to the fact that divorce rates are incredibly high, then you got another expense compounded onto that, which is the economic devastation of divorce. Half of those married couples are going to be in divorce court. There's a really good documentary on Netflix called Divorce Corp, C-O-R-P. Everybody should watch this documentary. I think it's on Netflix. It may not, you probably find it somewhere, Amazon, whatever. And Dr. Drew did a really great analysis of how the whole family court system is basically designed to profit from your personal mistakes. They make 10 billion a year off of divorces and divorce couples fighting each other over whatever, right? And then another way people make money off of your financial mistakes or financial choices, if they're not optimal, is so we talk about student loans, the cost of the wedding, the cost of the divorce, and then the cost of death. When you die without, say without a will, you look at Prince. Prince has donated $70 million between the money he gave to the IRS and the money he gave to the consultants and accountants and lawyers to sort through his estate. You're talking about millions and millions of dollars. So they're literally sort of set up in a way where they say, look, we'll fix any problem that you want to create for yourself. We're never going to judge you. We have a free society. You can do whatever you want. In fact, we're going to encourage you to live your best life, whatever that means. If that means you want to get married on a whim, go do it. If you want to go to a college you can't afford, go do it. You want to go get a divorce, you want to go and die without a will, that's your right. We're not going to give you a hard time about that, but we are going to charge you money to clean up that mess. So it's almost like those grocery stores that sell you the donuts and shit in the front of the store and then the diabetes medication in the back. They're like, we're going to make money off you coming and going, right? Yeah. What do you think?
One of the things that really, when I was talking about Prince and his estate, and I just said, it's so ironic that he spent like much of his adult life, quote unquote, fighting the system and like, getting ownership of his masters and being in control of his music career and the music that he put out. And then to do all that work while you're alive to protect your assets, to just leave it in the hands of vultures after you die, because rest assured, they're going to handle it for you. Like you just said, they'll handle it at a very, very steep price. So it's just like, well, damn, like how did that happen? And why couldn't we just get that one thing right? And the other point I wanted to make too, as far as the debt that people take on, even the debt that I've taken on, because we're not just talking about random people. I've done, had some mistakes too, mainly with student loans, but it's the monthly payment trap. That's how Americans are trained to think about how we repay things. We don't think about the total cost. If you ask somebody who financed a car yesterday, and let's say the car was $30,000, and then if you look at, the paperwork they sign off, they'll end up paying back $45,000 over 6 years. If you ask the average person, how much is the interest rate, they don't know. If you ask them how much will you end up repaying over the total of the loan, they don't know. And a lot of people don't know, and nor do they care. They just know, well, my payments, this average payment, $551 a month. And so I'm good. That's how we're trained to think. We don't look at the whole picture. We look at that small monthly payment and be like, all right, I can pay that. I'll find a way. I'll manage. And that's how the debt cycle the debt pile just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Everybody who's watching, I'm speaking with Danielle Pierce. Her website is economicelevation.com. You should go check it out. It's a very good platform in which she teaches all about how to get your financial life right. Economicelevation.com. Somebody please type that in. We're talking about the high costs of proms and weddings and stuff like that. You're watching the Black Financial Channel, by the way. If you haven't subscribed, go to theblackfinancialchannel.com, theblackfinancialchannel.com. Also, if you happen to want a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, you can go to drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. What you're saying, Danielle, and everybody hit the thumbs up button. Please do that. Please hit the thumbs up button. That's a great point you just made about the monthly payment trap. All wealth really is, and I'm not just being like creative and dramatic when I describe it this way, it's really actually mathematically true. All wealth really is it's an accumulation process, like the way snow accumulates. Every little snowflake, no snowflake matters, but when you add up, you got trillions of them all falling over and over, then eventually you have an accumulation, right? Or you think about driving down the road, how do you measure the distance you've driven down the road? You take how many miles an hour you're going. I'm going 80 miles an hour. I drive for 10 hours. 80 times 10 means I've covered 800 miles. Wealth is just like that, right? It's how long you build multiplied by the rate at which you're building, the rate at which you're growing, right? The speed of your investment vehicle. So, when you think about that, and you see wealth as nothing more than just the same thing kind of done over and over again. Like every week I'm putting, $200 in my 401k, and then it's growing. And then now suddenly I'm a millionaire by the time I retire. It's funny because that requires like a certain kind of predetermined decision. Like I'm going to form a habit that's going to, repeat itself thousands of times, and it's going to lead to me having this big pile of money. Right. Just like, I'm going to lose weight, so I'm going to work out every day, or I'm going to walk 100 miles and I'm going to walk 1 mile a day or whatever. Right. Well, a lot of us don't have the discipline to do that. Like we don't necessarily have the discipline to tell ourselves, I'm going to do this thing every week, no matter what. And that's how I'm going to accumulate wealth. But what happens is systems and society does discipline you when it comes to paying debts and paying expenses. Right. So like you get that car note, you don't have a choice but to pay that $500 a month, right? Or $300 a month or whatever. Like they're going to make you do it. You get that rent, your landlord forces you to have a certain discipline. Like you must pay every month. If you don't, you will be evicted. There's a consequence for that. And what happens is that accumulation process, they could be working in our favor, where you're doing the same thing over and over again to, it is every step is working in your benefit. You're taking a step in the right direction every time. That accumulation process that could work to your benefit is actually working to your detriment. Right. So rather than accumulating gains that come from consistently putting money into your account every week, you're accumulating losses that come from putting money consistently in somebody else's account every week. Right. That car note is going to somebody else's account. That rent is going to somebody else's account, and you're doing it like clockwork. So if you could find a way, that's what I figured out when it came to my own life and stuff, is I said, well, if I can be as consistent with paying me as I am with paying them, then I'm going to be good. You know, we're very consistent when it comes to paying them because we have to, right? But when it comes to paying ourselves, meaning saving for our future, the consistency falls off. Like, I would have saved, but I didn't have enough money, blah, blah, blah. The landlord doesn't care what your financial problems are. He's going to want that rent. And if you don't pay it, you're going to get evicted, period. You know, so it almost seems like that's pretty much one of the solutions. What do you think about that?
Yeah, there's this book called Power of Habit. It's a great book, and it basically talks about how we think that we are making decisions every single day about our lives and what we do and where we go and what we buy, when in reality 95% of the stuff that we do every single day is in fact habit. Like, our brains are literally running on autopilot. We're not utilizing any new neurons or anything like that. It's literally the brain, like, okay, this is what you do every day, so we're going to keep doing it. And it is hard to change those habits. And the book does go into explanation of how you can do that, but it takes a lot of concentrated effort. It takes a lot of being willing to be uncomfortable, being willing to forego immediate gratification. It takes a whole lot. Like, I talk about the shift from between being a 9-to-5 employee and being an entrepreneur. That's a huge mindset shift. So it's easy for me to say, you know, what somebody should do as far as their job and when they quit their job and becoming a business owner. But in reality, that mindset shift takes years, and you need help. You can't do it by yourself. So you have to have people around you who speak your same language, who are walking the same walk that you are. You have to have people who are ahead of you, people who are behind you. You can't hang around the same folks that you grew up with, your friends and family, expecting to get to a different level, because we've all, for the most part in America, been conditioned the same way. Get paid Friday, go out and party, go out and kick it. You know, Monday comes around, Sunday comes around, you get ready to go to work. Monday, you go to work. Wednesday, you're trying to make it to get to the next payday, borrowing money for gas, borrowing money for food. I don't have money for this. A lot of us have been conditioned with that, and it's hard to break those habits. Oh my God, like, it takes years and years of effort and help from other people. So you can't, again, don't try to do it by yourself would be my advice on that.
Wow. All right. Well, you know what? I think that's some great advice. I hope you guys learn something and gain something. If you learn something from Danielle, I hope you'll give her a digital round of applause and a digital. Somebody said, "Preach, sister." That's right. So important to have support and people around who value the same things. I agree 100%. And I'm glad you guys are here because you know, you're part of the tribe of intelligent Black people that helps us to have hope for the future, because I do believe the future will be better for Black people as we change our habits when it comes to money and wealth. Speaking of changing habits, Danielle's platform is economicelevation.com. I hope you go check it out and support her. Please do. Also, don't forget, you guys, my new book, Black American Money 3, just came out. So if you'd like to take a look at that, feel free to go to blackamericanmoney.com. That's blackamericanmoney.com. And also, you guys know about our financial workbooks for children. Summer's coming. Keep your kids busy. Have them do something productive. This will change them for the rest of their lives. You can take a look at financialworkbooks.com. That's financialworkbooks.com. So thank you very much, Danielle. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dr. Boyce. Anytime.
All right. And everybody, thank you guys for hanging out. And we shall see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah.